So that's the way in.
That's it for that. Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll move on to number 6. Borderland Pride, celebrating Pride in the time of COVID-19. What's going on here, councillors?
So, Harold, I'd like to speak to this if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Sure. So, I just a note for my fellow council members. So tonight we again have the opportunity to show our unreserved support for the LGBTQ members of our community. 2 years ago, Emo Town Council voted in favor of supporting the first Pride event to take place in the Borderland area. Last year, after much discussion and debate, our council voted unanimously in favor of declaring June 2nd to 9th, 2019 as Pride Week in Emo. As leaders in our community, we have a responsibility to show by example that Emo is a community where all are welcome in this place. When we affirm the need for the equality and visibility of the LGBTQ2 members of our community, we are offering that support to our friends, our neighbors, our family, and our ratepayers. Straight and cisgender people are the most visible people on planet Earth, not just because of their sheer numbers, but because their relationships, sexuality, and gender expressions are seen as the normative expressions and therefore uplifted and repeated in every community around the country. Straight cisgender people hold hands as they walk down the street without fear of getting accosted. The majority of advertisements on billboards, websites, and televisions center on heterosexual and cisgender people. Those who don't fit that traditional mold are so often left from the societal narrative. For many LGBTQ people, Pride is the one time of the year that they can be unreservedly out and proud of who they are and who they love. As I have made my fellow council members aware of in the past, it is also important to note that in 1996, Canadian Parliament added sexual orientation to the Canadian Human Rights Act, making it the 11th grounds for discrimination that is not allowed in Canada. Not only is support for the LGBTQ members of our community the right thing to do, it's also the law. We were elected to political office in order to represent all the residents of Emo, but this is not a political decision. Pride is about celebrating the diversity and equality of all who live in our community, no matter their sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. I would ask my fellow council members of the Township of Emo to join me in voting to support this resolution unreservedly, proclaiming June of this year to be Pride Month, and to proudly show our support for Borderland Pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Lincoln.
Thanks. Thanks for that. So, councillors, your decisions, your input, please.
We had identified late last year for the need to review this over the winter as it related to flags and proclamations submitted to the municipality. We have left that business unfinished. So I say we delay the discussion on this item till we go back to our flags and proclamation administration policy that we identified last year prior to moving ahead with this item.
I would agree with Harold.
That's
we had identified that as.
I don't feel that we need to put this on hold. We did not finish our discussion, and therefore we should be able to make a decision on this resolution once again this year.
Which is contrary to what the decision we had at council, where we said we would revisit this item prior to the submission coming forward.
So point of order, that's not a decision made by council.
Say again, Lincoln?
Point of order, that's not a decision made by council. We had tabled the discussion around that, but that's not making a decision as far as the resolution. So I see no reason why we can't proceed with the resolution as has been provided to us by Borderland Pride this evening. As we've discussed in the past, we do not have a municipal flagpole, so we don't have the capacity to fly a flag right now. but I don't see any reason why we cannot pass this resolution and move forward with the business of the evening. So,
Well,
absent any other, sorry, go ahead, Harold.
So we've got a tie here now, and this was put forward and never ever dealt with. I thought of it with Mr. Bowen on that. That could be done. I feel that we set this other meeting, the last meeting, and deal with this. That's painful. Move forward. I agree with Bowen, I agree with Arnold.
Sorry, Harold, you're breaking up pretty heavily. I couldn't understand what you were saying.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
I said I agree with your chair, and I agree with her that it should be over and revisited in our next meeting going forward. And because there was supposed to be and so I feel that that's the point of view on the meeting. Did you hear me that?
I didn't hear it clearly. It was mumbled. Are you saying delaying? Are you saying delay? Were you saying delaying it to the next meeting, Harold?
I am.
So, with respect, Harold, we haven't called the motion. We haven't called for motion on this. So, if discussion is finished, I would make the motion that we pass this resolution.
Lorianne, I second that motion.
The more you're putting here, and you've made the motion, you've seconded, Laura, and that's for you talked about there. Is that what Harold Boven and Warren opposed, now set over the next meeting?
Yeah, I didn't hear that, Harold.
You have to take a vote. You have to take a vote on this motion.
Well, take a vote on it. Go ahead. There's we have Lincoln's vote, and what's your vote, Warren?
Against.
And your vote?
Well, I'm against it based on the discussion we had over the winter as to the direction that we were going to go into this year with. And the note that Lincoln read, I wouldn't mind reading that and understanding the reference that he has made to that prior to making like a yay or nay. I'm a nay at this point, but I wouldn't mind taking a look at what he has written. What I find is with some of the, as we discuss by this methodology, some of the interpretation gets lost and some of the things that you said, Harold. So I want to take a closer look at it. And the last comment that Lincoln made as to with the flag and that is a mute point. So I just want to be clear as to what we're all saying. If that makes sense.
So Harold, I'm not sure I understand what it is that you're wanting to review in there. What I stated I thought was pretty clear. That this is not a political vote. This is about supporting the rights of everybody who lives in our community. And there their ability to fully be a part of our community and to be celebrated. So if your concern is around the legality of the Human Rights Act, with respect, I would tell you that we discussed this last year. I brought up exactly the same point last year. So you've had a whole year to look at that. So I'm going to call the vote and ask for a vote, and I'm going to call for a recorded vote, please.
Yeah, and before we do that, I do appreciate the inclusion by the group of our motion of last year. So that's number 11 of the document that was submitted. So I do appreciate that.
So I'm in favor of the motion.
Well, thank
Lincoln
you.
here.
And Lorianne?
I'm in favor of the motion.
And Warren?
Not in favor of the motion. I would put a different motion forward similar to last year, but I'm not in favor of this motion.
And Mr. Bowen?
Yeah, not in favor of my understanding of where we would be this year. So not in favor.
So it leaves me in a little bit of a difficult situation here. And the situation is, I've always been a believer in the rule of law, and whatever happens and has to happen. And I also believe in the fact the majority rules. And that being said, I guess I'll be on the nay side. I'll be with Warren and Harold on it.
Shame.
Nobody was called to speak. Harold, I would put forth a motion that is the same motion we made last year. And I don't have a copy of that right in front of me. I might be able to find it quickly, but I would put that motion forward.
So I would also note that if you were hopeful to put a different motion forward, we've had this information before us for several days, and I would have anticipated that would have been brought forward, that you would have had that ready. So it's with deep disappointment. I am very disappointed in council in making this decision. At this point, I'm actually quite speechless. I don't know what else I don't know what else to say.
Lorianne, I'm
So
also
what
very
was passed-
disappointed in the choices that we just made. We've had a good discussion last year about this, and I was hoping that everyone was going to understand where this resolution was coming from and be supportive of all of our community.
Well, the part, Lorianne, that bothers me about it, and you know, you're a good counselor, and I appreciate your views, and the same for yourself, Lincoln. But the part that bothers me about it is if last year was okay, like Warren said, I guess last year was okay. But as far as any flag issues or anything like that, I don't feel personally that we have to fly a flag. We have one flagpole, by the way, in the park, that we have to fly a flag, and because there's no flag being flown for the other side of the coin. So that being said,
sorry, Harold, what's the other side of the coin?
the
I'm not
decision
certain what
is the
that
decision.
reference means.
Well, the other side of the coin, there's no flags being flown for the straight people.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Is that an actual joke?
You're welcome, sir.
unbelievable.
Anyway, that's where we're at on that, I guess.
Harold,
Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. That's fine.
So we'll move ahead then to number 7. The Town of Grimsby Free Commercial Rent Assistance Program. Be it resolved that the Township of Emo hereby receive correspondence from the Town of Grimsby regarding the federal government's Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program, and that the council endorses and supports the Town of Grimsby in their efforts to request the federal government to work with its provincial and territorial partners to expedite this program and offer this program as soon as possible, to look into the possibility of extending this program if the impacts of COVID-19 continue past the month of June, and make